the way that you use English to communicate, to get your message through. So I changed at the age of almost 50 years of age. I changed my career completely and began teaching in the government of Finland, in the parliament, a couple of their prime ministers, as I mentioned, a couple of presidents. It's a very small country. It's only 5 million people. And after many years of being there, about 15 years, no, sorry, it's not important, the number, but I met Kuntida Cook. And I said, oh, where are you from? At this social event that we met. And she said, oh, I'm from Thailand. Why are you in Finland? She said, oh, long story. I won't tell you the whole story. But anyway, we became very good friends. And we remained so for about 2 years. And 2 years after that, we were married. So we're actually a couple. And I'll let Tita tell a little bit about herself and how she came to Finland. Go ahead, my dear.
Well, my life is much simpler than Brian. But anyway, I'm Tita, and I'm born Buddhist and raised also in Thailand. But I have moved to Finland 16 years ago. Back then, why I moved there? Because I had another love of my life then. And I moved there because I was told that, why don't I try to live in the West? It's totally different from Finland. So I thought, okay, why not? I have a chance. So I moved there 16 years ago in the year 2006. Then, well, but we met 8 years ago. So that's another different relationship. So that's a part of Finland, no? Then, but anyway, even though I was born and raised as Buddhist, let's say my relationship with Buddhism hasn't been serious until 10 years ago. That was the time that I did not have happiness in my life. I was about to divorce. And it's a little bit emotional, but anyway, it was a good thing to do, because back then, after I divorced, I found my happiness again. And soon after that, I found him 8 years ago. So
real happiness.
Yes.
Let me tell you, she's a very modest person. Tita actually has her bachelor's degree from Thammasat University in Bangkok. She studied in linguistics. Her major was Russian.
Yes.
Her minor was English. And then she went on to Finland, as she said. She moved to Finland. She took another bachelor's degree while there. And then she just wouldn't sit still. When I met her, she asked me to help her write a letter to get her into a master's program at a university in northern, or I should say central Finland, where she took a master's degree in environmental studies. And she didn't stop there. After she finished that, she went online and got a certificate for teaching English as a second language. We came here to Thailand, 2019, and she taught at Satri Nakhon Sawan School in Nakhon Sawan, Thailand, for a bit of time. And then, again, she's very modest. We returned to Finland because of the COVID. We decided to go back in early 2020. And there she found that she had a desire to help the world during this pandemic. So she retrained once again, lifelong student. She retrained once again, and she's now a practical nurse. And she takes care of the elderly when we're at home in Finland. So I'm very, very, as you can tell, proud of her. And I'm very fortunate to share my life with her. If I can continue just for a minute about how we had met. Once we had met, she asked me, would I like to go visit the temple that she attends in Finland? I was very surprised. I said, there's a Buddhist temple in Finland? I had never imagined there'd be a Buddhist temple in this small Nordic country of only 5.2 million people. She said, actually, there are 2 temples, and a third one is attempted to be started north of where her temple was, but there were two ongoing temples at the time. And I said, yes, I really love to go. So my images in my mind took me back 40 years to Thailand, and I saw these big Naga, you know, the big dragons, and I saw the big golden Buddha statue, and I saw hundreds of monks every day coming to chanting, and the things I had seen in so many temples so many years ago. We got on a train and we traveled for about 30 or 40 minutes north of Helsinki, and we were in the countryside, farms, forests, and a gentleman came to pick us up at the train station and drove us about 10 minutes to what I thought would be this temple. We approached a farmhouse, a very large farmhouse, and I can actually show you a bit of what the temple looks like today. Maybe I should use this. In these pictures here, we see, of course, this is Finland, and over here you see we have Sweden on this side of us. We have Finland here. This very long white line here, anybody know what that is? That's the border of Finland with the country of Russia. We have a 1,300 kilometer border, I think it is.
I don't remember a specific number,
But it's over
over
1,000
1,000
kilometers.
kilometers.
St. Petersburg is here. In fact, prior to the ongoing war that's now taking place in the Ukraine between the Ukrainians and the Russians, we were able to travel by train from Helsinki to St. Petersburg in merely 3 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yeah. And that was a common thing for many Finns and many Russians, because we share family relationships, work relationships, and so on. So our temple is here in a village. This is where she took me, to a village called Nurmijärvi, and more specifically, even smaller one called Nukkari. This is Longpa, I call him, Longpa Nuan. He is the abbot there, and he's the founder of the Wat Buddharam temple that Tita Cook took me to 8 years ago. And here you see it here. When I first arrived there with her, there was only this farmhouse here, this small farmhouse. Actually, it's quite large. But this farmhouse, there was not this big, what the Thais call sala, the big temple. So I was very surprised when I walked inside the house, and there was a beautiful Buddha. In fact, two beautiful Buddhas, the jade Buddha behind the golden Buddha. And there were about 30 or 40 people in the house, and they were all on the floor, grabbing the Buddha to bow and show respect to the Buddha, and to the two monks who were there at that time, I believe, that day.
Yes. Back then, there were only two residential monks, the monks who stayed there permanently. And the house, of course, the temple is in the form of the house. That's why it wasn't easy for anyone, including him, to recognize it's his temple. But it's very common in the West that to build a new house that look like temple of your image or of your country, they are different, right? And it costs a lot. So it's cheaper in general to already choose a building that already exists and then modifying the inner space to your needs, rather than change the whole outer look of the building.
And this is true of the other temples that are in Finland today. There are a number of them. There is, of course, Wat Buddharam, and I can show you a little bit more of it here. This is the main big building, this one here that we call the Sala or Salayai. This here, and of course, what do you see? All that white, a lot of snow. Finland is very far to the north. It's nearly, actually, 2/3 of it is inside the Arctic Circle. So we have, during the winter, almost total darkness, very little sunlight during the winter, and during the summer, we have a lot of light. The sun comes up at about 2 in the morning and stays up until about 1 o'clock at night, or 12:30.
Well, if you go to the north of Finland, it's possible that you don't really see sunset. It's like you can party 24/7 during summer months.
Oh, is that
Some
what
of the
you do?
Finns told me like that. It's good to go to party in the north.
But in the winter, which is most of the year for Finland, it's darkness. And for many parts of Finland, it's total darkness. So it can be very depressing for people. It can be extremely depressing. We do have, as I was saying, a number of other temples. We have, and Cook, you correct me if I'm wrong, we have 2 Mahayanan temples in Finland, right? One in Turku and one in Vantaa, for sure.
From what I know, yes, only
Yeah.
2. There could be more, but there's
And-
only 2 at least. Yeah.
And as it regards Theravadan Buddhism, we have currently 3 operating temples, and there was a meditation center. The 2 of the Theravadan temples are Thai operated temples, and one is operated by Luang Viryo, who is a Vietnamese Theravadan monk who is right now possibly in our audience. He said he would join us today. He's in Ho Chi Minh City, where he has I hope he's on there because he can correct me. But I believe 5 different temples, including in one in India, one in Cambodia, one in Myanmar, the one in Finland, and then the one in Vietnam as well too, and a meditation center. So anyway, we have diversity of Buddhism in Finland, and it doesn't stop there with just the Mahayanan temples and the Theravadan temples. Buddhism in Finland has been viable. Let's say it's been there, and there have been practitioners, people practicing Buddhism and following the studies of the Lord Buddha for well over 70 years now. There is a Finnish Buddhist Union, of which it's very much involved in bringing Buddhism to Finland in many different ways. And there is also, we have, and I believe she may be in our audience, we have a doctorate of Buddhist studies from Helsinki University, and that is?
Mita Harkonen, we hope to see her name popped up, or if she is already with us.
Yeah, Mitra may be in our audience, or
let us know if you already hear Mitra, because she also could give you or share with you her insights about Buddhism in Finland, because she's Finnish scholar and she's been studying Buddhism and not only Buddhism but other beliefs as well.
She's also a mother, and it's 5:30 in the morning, so she may not be with us.
Yes, and actually, in addition to what you said earlier, that there are Thai Buddhist temples in Finland, also Vietnamese Buddhist temple. There are also Burmese Buddhist temple.
Yes.
But I'm not sure under what kind of what you call under Theravada or Mahayana. I cannot say that with certainty.
Finland over the years, and not so many years ago, and again, I'm going to ask you for your help because you have a younger mind than the one that's in this body right now. The Dalai Lama visited Finland. Do you remember what year that was?
I don't remember the year, but if you, maybe someone could check from the phone.
Yeah.
Because we don't know, our phones are on the
and
table.
That visit was made possible by the Finnish Buddhist Union, in addition with the Finnish Thai Buddhist Association, which is what Tita and I are very active members of. Tita has also served on the working group of the Wat Buddharam temple that you see here. Brian's here. I'm retired now, by the way. I didn't mention that earlier. I mentioned I'm 69, so I'm retired. I don't have to be working, but I work every day. And this is my workplace. Every day, right?
Pretty much every day, yes. And when he mentioned his workplace, it's like, in addition to clergy, I mean nuns and monks, monk novices working for the only temple that you are in. We also help you, the local people, local working group. Sometimes some temples have working groups, and what it means in practice, it means that these people help you make decisions, find information, deal with different legal issues and talk to your neighbors in local languages. So there are all kinds of problems that you may not think about or may not know in advance. But when you have some issues to take care or even to solve, then you need some more people to help you think, make decisions, and solve your problems. And at times, it's not the clergy do not have knowledge to do, especially if it's not in your own language. You have to do it in different languages, and also you have to know different law of different countries at times. So it's good to have working group work people with the opinions and knowledge to help you.
The responsibility of the clergy, which we're going to talk a little bit about, again, only from our perspective, because that's all we have to offer you today, is our personal perspective on Buddhism and on how Buddhism functions for us in Finland. But the clergy, I can share with you, because of working here at Wat Buddharam nearly every day, has a tremendous amount of physical demand put on them.
Brian, what do you do every day at the temple?
I move that snow. There's a lot of it.
So what do
In
we
fact,
do as, in general, we say we go to help at the temple. We go cut grass. We clean dishes. We clean the whole temples inside and outside.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Well, we fix all the waste management problems.
We help build these buildings.
Anything else?
We help build these buildings. We help care for this big.
At times, you have to repaint the building, fix part of the buildings. We help with that too. So anything to do with that, let's say maintaining the physical grounds and the buildings, we help with that too.
Earlier this summer, we had a very large event, the 21st annual meeting of the European Sangha. We had about over 100 monks who came from throughout Europe and other parts of the world, including Ajahn Tha, who introduced us today.
Yes.
And it was a very major event that we had to prepare for.
Yes.
And it's not a small task for the clergy, who worked very, very hard, not for 1 month before, not for 6 months before, but we really started work on that project nearly 3 years ago.
Yes, we have prepared for it about 3 years. But intensively, we prepared for about 1 year before, physically and in terms of documentations too. Physically mean we had to prepare the whole place. We beautifying the whole place by putting tens of thousands of flowers through a network of ladies who like to grow flowers, and also a network of people who love to clean the place. We also, we as volunteers, we also help professional excavator build new parking space, which is a huge place.
Yeah,
actually.
because we now have space for parking, I don't know, close to 500 cars or so. And it was a very, very big project. Myself personally, actually with her, we cut down about 150 trees. She dropped one on my foot, by the way. One of these trees you see over here. So there's a lot to do.
Accident
whether
happens,
you're clergy,
honey. Accident happens at times. Yeah.
So whether you're clergy or whether you are a lay person, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into, let's say, Buddhism anywhere in the world. But we have never experienced more than what we've experienced here in Finland, so much more that we have to do. Here in a country like Thailand, where you have 90+% of the population being Buddhist, you have a lot of people who are dedicated to not only the teachings of the Buddha, but providing for their temples in many different ways, not just through offering of food, but also helping, of course, as you all know, from wherever you are in the world and wherever you come from in the world. So this is an extremely important part of Buddhism in our country of residence now. I'm still an American, but this is my residence that I live in most of the time. And the rest of the time I'm here in Thailand. We really don't go back to the US anymore. And it's something that Buddhism in Finland, if I share with you now the perspective of the white male, let's use my race and my ethnicity and we can use my nationality a bit too. My perspective on Buddhism goes back to when I was a 15-year-old boy in the state of Michigan in the United States. I was raised as a Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 8 years. I was an altar boy, if anyone knows what an altar boy is now. She calls me temple boy now because I'm in the temple every day helping
if
the
you would
monks.
share with us a little bit,
I will.
what is the role of altar boy?
Okay, so altar boy does pretty much what the temple boy does. He serves the monks, so he serves the priest. Everything from helping him with his robes to preparing the church for whatever event is going to take place. So I did that and was in a Catholic grade school using Latin language. It was a French Catholic school, so I used French and used Latin and used English for 8 years. At age 15, I was given an assignment in my first year in high school in a literature class to read a book by the author Hermann Hesse. Hermann Hesse is a German, or was a German writer. And in the 1930s, he wrote a book called Siddhartha. And it was the story of the young Gautama Buddha. And I was so impressed by what I read. In fact, now I get chills when I think of what I read in that book at age 15, that I began to question my belief in Christianity. And I kept thinking about this, and I got further away from my Christian beliefs that were forced upon me by my parents and the priests in Christianity. I felt forced upon me. And I moved closer and closer to trying to understand this concept of just taking a middle path, being not a self, not being attached to everything. And what happened within the next couple years, I became 17. I left home at 17. I joined the military, and there was a war in Vietnam. And at age 18, I found myself in the country of Vietnam. And then at age 19, I found myself in the country of Thailand. And I was here to help, at that time, keep communism in another place than what the Thais wanted. They didn't want it in their place. And so it gave me an opportunity to see Buddhism in the East, in this Southeast Thailand, very close and up personal. And I was fascinated, but I can't say that I became a Buddhist, but I was fascinated. And again, as I shared with you earlier, 40 some years after that, I met Cook, I met Tida, and she invited me to her temple. And then within my second or third visit, she gave me an opportunity by bringing me before the two monks who were operating that temple, Long Pa and Long Na, the opportunity to ask them questions that I might have about Buddhism. And I really took an interest in it. And at the same time, I also took an interest in finding material online, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So this is how I got to, I guess, where I am today. It was quite a long journey for me, and still a long journey yet to go. I feel so, if I'm fortunate enough to wake tomorrow morning and make it through today. So going back to what we're talking about, Buddhism in Finland today from a material perspective, the temples, the lay people who are there, and the clergy who are there. That's what we want to talk more about with you today, as we talk about what are the expectations that lay people have, people like Kun Tida and I have, and what are the perspectives then that we have on these expectations.
But before we will go forward to the contents of this presentation, we would like to inform you upfront that our perspectives today are ours. So therefore, you cannot generalize them, and neither they can be applied to Buddhism in other Western countries and in any other countries.
Yeah, Buddhism is alive in the Nordics, I can tell you that, very much so. There are temples in Sweden, Norway,
Yes, there are
Denmark.
more Buddhist temples in Sweden, Norway, Denmark than in Finland.
Yeah. And in Russia as well, too. Ajahn Chatri has been there how many years in St. Petersburg?
I think
Or
almost
Moscow, too.
probably 30 years. I think so.
Yeah. That's a name that we would hope you would try to find something out about Ajahn Chatri. He's really a remarkable person who has done a lot in furthering the teachings of the Lord Buddha in that part of the world. And he's back in Russia now. He had some health issues, came back here to Thailand, and now is back in Russia. So as Cook said, I don't know, I like calling you Tita today. As Kuntita said,
It's okay.
These are our perspectives. These are our expectations. Please don't assume. And I always say it's not a good thing to assume, because when you assume, you're making a decision, having an opinion or a belief based on incomplete information. So we're giving you incomplete information. We're only giving you our perspective. That's complete. But as far as the rest of Finland goes, and the Buddhists who are there and Buddhism that's there, you have to look a lot deeper than what we can provide for you today. But we appreciate the opportunity that the International Buddhist Studies Center and Ajahn Tha have given us to talk with you today.
Yes, and we like Brian said, I cannot represent Thai people living in Finland. He cannot represent American living in the West. Our perspectives are ours. So that's like,
I don't even know any Americans in Finland, maybe one or two.
So these are subjective to our perception and interpretations as well. So at times we see things that we think, okay, is this true or not? We don't know, but this is what we see. And at times we believe that it may be true, although in reality, we don't know if the truth is exactly what we see.
So what are our expectations when it comes to the temple? I expected, as I told you earlier, when she invited me to the temple, that it would look like the temples I had seen elsewhere in the world. Instead, we found a farmhouse. We found a lovely Buddha, and we found some lovely people there. But also, she had me dig a hole about 1 meter deep in the ground and pull out a huge rock and bury some bio waste. I did not expect that. I didn't have any thought that there would be real work to do at a temple, you know, where you get your hands dirty. And that's all I've done, and that's all I do now, pretty much at the temple. And I'm going to tell you why that's all I do in a little while from now. I don't want to share that with you right now, but I do that more than, let's say, I walk through the front door, as you see most lay people, and immediately put myself before the image of the Lord Buddha and grab. I do more of just going straight to the forest to work, or straight to the snow to push it and get it out of the way.
Well, for me, when I travel to different countries and I visited some temples in some countries, for example, in London, I didn't expect, actually in London, I visited at least 3 temples. One is in the form of small house. I couldn't know when I just look, you know, when I stood in front of the house, I didn't know this is temple. And in one place is like a real temple. That building is called Puttapati Temple in London. If you have heard this name, maybe. No. This temple actually was funded by Thai government. That's why with enough funding, the temple looks exactly like Thai temple in Thailand, Thai architecture. But another temple in the north of England looks like a castle, because it's cheaper to already select existing building rather than building a new one, no?
Yeah, any of you familiar with the temple founded by Ajahn Chah's disciple, Ajahn Sumet Ho, in England, called Amavarati? It's very different looking than what you would expect of a Thai temple. Please go online. It's a wonderful online presentation of that temple. And I believe Luang Virio, who may be in our audience there, he's visited there. Tita and I also had an opportunity to visit a temple near Seattle, Washington, on the Pacific Northwest coast of the United States. It again was a farmhouse converted into a temple. But it was lovely on the inside. It was lovely on the outside, but it just wasn't what I expected.
But in addition to like certain expectation about appearance, what else do we expect from the temple? At least for me, I expect it to be a place of, let's say, it should be clean to begin with, because it's like clean, organized. These are basic elements that like at least make me feel like I'm welcome. Because if I enter a place that is so dirty, I don't even want to enter the place, let alone try to know the place. No? So the place should be clean, organized, welcoming, warm, and has a atmosphere that I could talk to anyone here if I need to talk to someone, especially when I feel that I don't understand about certain things about life. I would like to seek some guidance. I would expect that the people who are there could maybe give me some guidance if I need guidance. That's at least my expectation from the temple. At least first impression should be like similar to that.
I had the same expectations. And again, you know, she's coming from Southeast Asia. I'm coming from North America. And you know, I mentioned my Christian background when I was very young. I expected it to be like the churches of Christianity, you know, quiet places, clean places, awesome looking, you know, like God walked through the door every day. And so it was shining all the time, right? Then we get to what are perspectives. What are the temples like? Well, we've already said that many of them are converted homes. And in one case, one Theravadan temple, the one in Kerava, when it first started, Kerava is a city outside of Helsinki. It was an apartment.
Yes, a tiny apartment, yeah.
Yeah, but it was beautiful. Upon entering, you had that peaceful feeling of being in a temple anywhere in the world. You could feel the peace, you could feel the warmth, you could feel the positive energy of the people who were there and the images that you were seeing inside. But the perception of the temple, as I'm going to go back to perception now, I perceive the temple now, and I'm going to speak about my perception only. Again, I want to say this is Brian's perception. Whether I'm in the temple we showed you earlier, the one we go to the most, the one we're members of, Wat Buddharam, or whether it is there's another large temple in southwest Finland, or whether it is the Theravadan Vietnamese one. The temples that I go to in Finland, my perception is that they're not so much temples as they are cultural and ethnic touchstones. It's the Thai Finnish Buddhist Association, and sometimes she doesn't like when I say this, or people get uncomfortable when I say it, but make no mistake, it's a Thai place for Thai people first and foremost. It's Thai language that dominates. It's Thai food that dominates. It's Thai dress that dominates. It's Thai ceremonies that dominates. And so for me as a Buddhist, a student of, a follower of the teachings of the Lord Buddha, and my Ajahn, if you will, my teacher in my heart is Ajahn Chah. Those of you who know the teachings of Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho, very important to me. I don't get those when I go into any of those temples. I might find a publication in the corner. I might find that someone I talk to, specifically one or two monks who I have talked to, like Ajahn T and Turku. He knows the teachings of Ajahn Chah. He knows them well, and we can have a discussion in broken English about it. But it's not something that is professed there, that is spoken to and about to everyone who walks through the door in a language that they can all understand and comprehend. Tita and I have a young friend. She's Thai-born, but Finnish raised. And she's now, how old is Min?
21, and
Yeah.
when he said that she's Thai born because she was born in Thailand.
Yeah.
But by the age of 6, I think so, 6, she moved to live in Finland. So for about 15 years, she has been there. So she speaks Finnish more fluent than Thai.
Yeah.
She speaks Thai, of course. She reads some Thai, but her skills of Thai language is not fluent. I would not say that 4 skills are not fluent.
And she's just one of thousands of in Finland alone, thousands of young Thai Finnish kids who struggle to understand the teachings of the Lord Buddha as they're presented to them by their parents, as well as by the clergy, as well as by the fellow lay people that they find themselves with. They struggle, and we know this because she just shared this with me last night. She said she struggles at times to understand these teachings because the English is not good enough, or the Finnish is not good enough, and her Thai's not good enough, you know. So later we're going to talk, before we go today, about, in conclusions, what are some of the greatest challenges that you have as you go out into the world, if you choose to go out into the world and share your experiences and receive those of other people. Language is a huge obstacle, as it may be for some of us here today, listening to Tita and I. I'm a teacher of the English language, but sometimes I misuse it.
Actually, Brian mentions a lot about Thai temple because we volunteer most of our time. I would say 95% of our time in this particular temple, Thai temple in Finland. But we also, of course, volunteer our time in Vietnamese Buddhist temple. So at times when Brian said that this temple is like a Thai club, everything is about Thailand, Thai food, Thai language, and Thai culture, and Thai showing off. And I was like, okay, I get you. And of course, I think he tried to say really is like he doesn't get the teaching that's come with the conversation between the lay people and the clergy in Thai language at times. I think that was he missed. But make no mistakes, when we go to Vietnamese temple, Dai Tho temple, that place is to a Vietnamese club. So we are like, we don't get most of the time what they're talking about in Vietnamese language.
The name of that temple is Chua Dai Tho. And I want to take this moment to thank Chua Dai Tho and Long Video and his brother, who was also a monk and sadly passed away a number of years ago of bone cancer, who founded that temple, because they provided a home for Tita and I when we came back to Finland during the start of the COVID. We had no home left in Finland. We had sold everything, moved here to Thailand with the intent that we weren't going to leave here. I was going to die here for sure, because that's what I want to do, is die in a Buddhist country. I have this belief that somehow that'll bring me one step closer to coming back as a monk, and or Mashi, I don't know, and maybe realizing Nibbana someday. But anyway, Chua Dai Tho provided us a home through about a month's period of time before we could find one there. So
yes,
yeah, so it's a Vietnamese Buddhist club.
Yes, and of course, life is not certain. As Brian said, 2 years ago, we planned to move to live in Finland, from Finland to Thailand. We sold everything and gave our stuff to the temples and to our friends. COVID came. What happened? Millions of lives around the world are changed. Ours too. So we made decision to go back to Finland. We bought a house, and we came back after 2 years when now there are no restrictions concerning COVID anymore.
Now she wants to buy another house here.
And we're thinking about my retirement home now, because in about 20 years, something from now, I will be 60 something. I'm 40 years old, by the way. So time flies, like 20 years like that. So you have to think about, okay, what good thing you could do now for your future too. That's like, at least, and anyway, but the good thing of like the COVID is like it make us see so many things that is like, okay, this is what we think, we plan, it's gonna happen. Nothing is never like that in life.
Why? Maybe maybe some of you are wondering, Brian, why is your perspective, because I'm not going to speak for Tita, why is Brian's perspective one of seeing the temples in Finland as being more cultural touchstones or cultural centers than they are places of spiritual rest and respite and relief and studies? I perceive it that way. I see it that way. Maybe because, as Tita briefly mentioned, I don't get everything through the language that's most common there, because I'm hearing Thai, and I don't know how many of you in the audience are Thai, but I can say to you, "Pom mai put pasa Thai, put pasa Thai da nit noi." You know, I do understand. Oh, was it bad or good? My accent's not so good, but I do understand more Thai than I can speak. I do live with a Thai and have for nearly 8 years. And going back 40 years ago, I tried to learn the language, but I can't say that I really understand everything. I get the nuances, the little, you know what I mean, the little things that sort of give you a hint, they give you an indication, some little thought of what they're talking about, but I don't get all of it. So thank goodness for the great amount of teachings of Ajahn Chah on the internet. I've read 16 of the books that have been published of his speaking, and I can tell all of you, please, if you haven't read what he taught, do. He's the most wonderful, simple teacher there is. And Ajahn Sumedho, one of his Western disciples of so many years ago, Ajahn Sumedho now is 88 or 89 years of age. And there are others, Ajahn Brahm in Australia, who Ajahn Tha knows of as well too. So there's a lot of that available to you. And to me, that's where I get the guidance that I need to find my middle path that I need to be on. The temple for me is a place where my perspective, again, is a place where I can practice, is it called samatha? My meditation.
I think it's called mindfulness meditation.
Yeah, mindfulness form of meditation. Let's use English and not try to mess with Pali, because my Pali's way worse than any other language I try. So I'm very mindful when I'm at the temple, because the temple work allows me to be lost in it, focused in it. And the rest of the world around me is completely gone. I can be working side by side. There's a younger monk, Prawitaya, at the temple in Wat Buddharam, who works with me daily, moving the snow you saw before, building things, whatever we're doing. We rarely talk to each other when we're working, even though we're side by side. He's deep in his meditative state, and I'm deep in mine through this work that we're able to do there. Later, and it's quite often after his meal, the midday meal that he takes, that we have a chance to sit and we actually do talk a bit of Dhamma. How old is Parawitaya?
He's 37 this year.
Yeah.
And actually, when Brian said that when he works with Mang Vitaya, they have to be mindful of what they're doing, because often they use big, heavy machineries, which if you're not mindful of what you're doing, you may cut yourself or hurt yourself badly. For example, if you cut a tree and you use like what you call electric chainsaw, right? It's like chainsaw that's gas based. Have you seen when you cut the tree? Big tree can be cut down in a few seconds. So it's your hand and your legs. So that's what he means.
Remember, I told you she dropped a log on my foot this year. So.
Yes, and that was during he was then you were driving a small tractor. Yeah. I was dragging a log that probably weighs like 50 kilograms. I drag it, and then I was about to lift it up to the front loader of that tractor, but instead I drop it on his foot.
So you have to be mindful.
It was quite painful. It was bruises. He had a big bruise from many weeks. So it was that, okay, I was mindful, but just split second accident always happens.
So again, my perspective at the temple is to be a place where I can be mindful. It can be a place where I no longer perceive the temple in the West as the place that I can access the teachings of the Lord Buddha in a meaningful way for me. And that might sound a bit negative, but it is what it is. It is the reality of what I perceive when I'm there. And it's not the clergy's fault. I'm not blaming the clergy. I'm not blaming the building or the images that are inside of it, nor the lay people that I'm next to. That's just the way that it is, and I accept that. But yet I still continue to go back every day, because every day it puts such joy in my heart, and it gives me so much of this mindfulness that I need in order to detach and let go of so many things that I need yet to let go of. And I'll again use my age. I'm 69. I'll be 70 in a few months. The end is going to come soon, whether I want it to or not. And it could come today. We don't know, right? It's all uncertain. But the temple does give me a place where I can practice more. I was going to use the word easily. Maybe not easily, but more frequently, my mindfulness that I need to have in order to find my way. Anything else you want to say about your perspectives on the temple?
Well, Brian already mentioned that Thai temple, for example, in this case, because we talk about Thai temple, it's almost like a Thai club. People come to you, they hope to talk to you in the local language that could be Vietnamese, Burmese, Cambodian, even Thai, because they feel that you are the connection of that missing piece in when you live abroad. So when people come to you, first they may not want to talk about Buddhism or Dhamma. They want to talk about their lives, and they want someone to listen to their lives. So of course, like the monks, we notice that monks will have to learn to be very good listeners, because you may have to listen to someone's story for long before you get to even talk back to that person.
Even if you don't understand the language they're speaking to you in. And just to touch on what Tita was saying, at our temple, I have seen the monks speak Khmer. I've seen them and heard them speak English, of course, try to speak some Finnish. They've tried to take the lessons and learn. It's a very, very, very difficult language if you don't know about it. She can tell you, because she speaks, reads, and writes Finnish as well as the other languages I mentioned. And we have Sri Lankan visitors who come. I mean, anyone who's Buddhist in Finland often seeks out the temples, because it's a place where they can go to hopefully find what they expect from a Buddhist temple. So they could be from any language. And there are, as Mitra may be in our audience, there are those Finns who are very devout followers of the Lord Buddha as well too, and expect their language to be used. We all use this thing called lingua franca, English. Today, that's pretty much what the world uses. Who knows what it might be in the future? It may be some form of Chinese. It may be some language from, who knows, another planet that's brought here. We don't know. But today it's supposed to be English. But Tita and I, if I can just please speak for her for 1 minute, can tell you it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You need your native language. You need to consider the language of the place that you're visiting as a language you should at least attempt to use in some way to communicate what you want to communicate. Please consider that, because it can help you so much, and it can help those who are seeking what you can provide for them.
I think in addition to using English proficiently enough to teach Dhamma or Buddhism, also in your own mother tongue, it's also important that the clergy, the nuns, and the monks learn to explain things in the very simple terms, simple ways, even in your own mother tongue.
So let's move on to clergy.
I remember that when I in for one particular monk, I asked him 3 times to explain one term in Bali, which of course back then I didn't know what it means. He could not explain it even in our mother tongue Thai language. And I eventually I gave up. I just used Ajahn Google instead. So I realized, okay, so actually, even in the same language, some clergy cannot explain some things where it's simply. So I think it's also important that when you learn to explain things, if you use English, when you go to the West to teach Buddhism, in your own mother tongue, you have to do the same way. Speak simply always. Use simple terms, simple language that anyone can understand.
That's why I said to you earlier, why I find the teachings of Ajahn Chah so important to me. Ajahn Chah used the most simple language in Thai, translatable to English, translatable to whatever your language may be. Very few words. I'm often saying, if it shouldn't be, it wouldn't be. Did you ever hear the story of Ajahn Chah telling that to a Western monk who complained that his knees hurt? And the monk said, "Oh, Ajahn, it shouldn't hurt like this." And Ajahn Chah just simply said, if it shouldn't be, it wouldn't be. And many times when Tita and I are doing something and something's very difficult, she looks at me and she says, if it shouldn't be, it wouldn't be. Huh? Also, the 2 words, not certain. Ajahn always used that, always saying, not certain. I find myself using that instead of saying buto, 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 which means something to many of you here, but it doesn't to me, so it doesn't help me. But saying not certain does. Even he used to say, not self. Oh, I can relieve myself of any pain. I had a tooth removed 2 years ago. It was supposed to take 20 minutes. It took about 3 hours. And the dentist, she said, oh, the pain must be terrible. I can give you more medicine. I said, it's okay. It's not self. And I kept thinking not self, and it worked for me. Yeah. So less, here's another one. Less is more. As I age, I can tell you, you will see this if you age. Less truly is more. I used to have so much in my life, so many material things, so many people, so many experiences, so many things. And now, less is more, and I'm so happy. In my little bit of Thai, I often say, Pom gaeแต่มีความสุข. It means I'm old, but I'm happy. It's true.
Okay, let's touch on the topic a little bit about clergy. So what are our expectations when we come across any clergy? So in general, I would expect that person, from just like first glance, is always like first impression, that person well groomed or well dressed properly. Because some monks can be quite relaxed with the way he dressed. So that's the number 1. Number 2, carry him or herself in respectable manner, that I feel that I could pay respect to when I see the way this person carry himself or herself in the public. And number 3, competent to teach, to explain things in simple terms. Forget Pali. Oftentimes you will not use Pali language when you teach Dhamma. Just use simple terms in the language that you can explain.
From a Christian perspective, I can go back, all those years of my life when I was raised as a young Christian. We had the same expectations of our clergy in Christianity, whether they be the priests or the nuns. And we still have that. I still have that as a Buddhist today. I still expect that when I see the robe, that the person wearing the robe is honoring that robe. I see the mashi, and I expect that that person who has taken that step in that direction of being so devout, following those precepts, that you are sincere in that. And so that's what I look for. That's my expectations. Also, as Tita said about the ability to teach, many of the great ajahns Arahants and others were not teachers. They didn't claim to be teachers. Ajahn Mun never said he was a teacher. Ajahn Chah, who I mentioned, never said he was a teacher. He often said, I'm not a teacher, but I found myself being made one. And when he became, Ajahn Chah recognized that people expected him to be a teacher. Oh, he was a hard teacher, you know. He did not use gentle words sometimes. He taught very hard lesson to the monks he taught and those who came close to him for what he knew. But we expect, just because you wear a robe or because you dress in white and you have your heads shaved, mine came out naturally, by the way, we expect that you are going to behave in a certain way. And so I don't know if I'm ready to go on to perception of then the clergy, or you want to say expectation more?
Yeah, so make no mistakes. Monks and nuns, although you are not celebrities, you are public figures. So people look at you and expect certain manners from you. The way you dress, you have to look like you dress well.
You know, Finnish people are not religious people. There's a national religion there. It's Lutheranism. And 90+% of the population actually pays taxes to the church and becomes a Lutheran, but they never practice it. They're not in church on Sundays. They have these beautiful big churches, but they're empty. They just don't go. They really don't care. And again, Brian's perspective, they don't care that much about religion until a baby's born, they get married, or they die. Those are the 3 times you'll see them at the church the most, right? But yet, I have seen Finns, when a monk walks by them, and I've picked monks up at the airport many times, and I've taken the monks, I'm a driver for Luang Pa and Luang Na and the other monks. I drive them to blessings that they do and other events that they do. And I have seen Finnish people who never even walk in a church and don't care whether someone's a priest or not in their own religion. I've seen them go like this when they walk past the monk. And I'm going, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You don't have to do that, but the monks, they always acknowledge it, or they try to, because that Western mind, again, we're giving you the Western perspective, that Western mind is thinking this is the proper thing they should do because they saw it that way in the movie, or they saw it that way when they were on vacation in Thailand.
But it's not always like that, because some ladies, especially some Western ladies, want to, for whatever reason, want to post a picture with Buddhist monks. They will stand next to Buddhist monks so close. So you have to be aware that like they don't think about, okay, there's like, there should like a cultural differences. They're just like, okay, we are humans, we are equal. We can stand next to each other. Let's take photos. That's it. So it's like at times male monks have to be aware that female lay people from some cultures may be quite close. I mean, in terms of physical closeness, they do not mind physical closeness. And I think so do some maybe male Western lay people who might want to be standing next to some nuns, Buddhist nuns. Just have to be aware that they don't see that cultural difference, and do not mind if they don't stay a little bit away from you. It's okay. They will not bite.
The temptations of the West for the clergy are many. I can tell you that because that was told to me by numerous monks who have found themselves in the West, provided with so much by people who believe so deeply in what they represent, whether they're provided food, shelter, gifts, material things, and a lot of money. It's no mistake, a lot of money. Money is a big thing in the West as it relates to Buddhism. And in Finland, we see it a lot. It's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money that passes through, and I know this is contrary to all that you've been taught, passes through the hands of the clergy and into the control of the clergy. That doesn't mean that there is, and I'm not insinuating or suggesting that there's any sort of misuse of the money or the material things, but they become something to cling to. And all of us here, whether you're Mashi or you're monk or you're a novice, or whether you're a lay person who is trying to follow the teachings of the Lord Buddha, we're trying to detach. We're trying to let go of these things. You know, Ajahn Chah said, hold, but don't hold tightly. Be able to let go. Huh? That's a very difficult thing when you're in the West and you're clergy. I can tell you, for lay people, it's a very hard thing to do. Remember, I said before, less is more. It took me over 60 years of life to finally get it, to finally really believe it, to really feel it and benefit from the idea that less is truly more. But it's hard for you if you go to the West, because people are always handing you an envelope, and inside is some money, because they don't know what to do for you. They feel that that's what you need. They feel that that's what they're supposed to give you. I'm giving you my Western perspective, okay? She can give you hers. But that's what they do. And maybe you can talk about, like, for instance, the amounts of food that's brought before the monks, as it's almost a competition.
But that is in the topic of activities, I think. Okay, we'll get to that. Okay, so what else? Brian said about the money, right? So the clergy must learn to be good listeners. That's for sure. You will learn that as you have more experience, you will learn to be good listeners or better listeners. And also, I think at times, even though I didn't expect that, but I see monks have to learn to become good conflict solver. Because when you are at any temple, people who come to the temple may have some different interests. So someone wants something, someone wants another thing. But within the same temple ground, there could be different conflicts of interest. So when lay person number 1, 2, 3, until 10 or 100 come to you as, like you are the middle person. You listen to everyone. And at times you might have to try to solve conflicts between lay person number 1 or group 1, group 2. You have to learn to solve different conflicts.
And that's more so than anywhere else in the world when you are in the West, because your followers, the people who are following the teachings of the Lord Buddha, which you represent and you help bring to them, they're using you, as we said, the temples are being used as cultural touchstones. They're far from their home. They're far from their family. They're far from everything in their life that they knew up until that point that was familiar to them. And so you become, whether you want to or not only their spiritual touchstone, but you become mom and dad. You become aunt and uncle, brother and sister, best friend, whatever. You become all of that. So they bring more of that to you, I find anyway, in the West than you would normally get if you were in your home country, whether it be in Myanmar or here in Thailand or in Sri Lanka or wherever you're coming from in the world, Vietnam and so on. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Lay people. Let's talk a little bit about our fellow lay people. What are our expectations and perspectives? Well, I just mentioned that the lay people expect a lot of this understanding from you, and they expect the temples to be like they are at home, and they expect them to be cultural touchstones and all the rest of that. So my perspective on lay people at the temple is pretty much what I've been sharing with you most of this morning, that it is a place for them to not feel like they're so far from home, not so far from their beliefs, not so far from what they're trying to achieve in their life, whether that's the middle path or whether that is to have more money and have more wealth and have more friends and have more clothes. It can be all those things from my perspective.
So in addition to that, I think of course, in general, I would expect to the people who come to the temple will have similar mind like me. But in fact, what I came across is that everyone comes from different upbringing backgrounds. They have different wishes, needs, and wants. So at times, our wishes, needs, and wants are too not exactly the same. So we too have some conflicts. We have had some conflicts with others, with our with some, let's say, not common interests. So
Even between you and me.
and at times, certain yes, it's impossible to have the same, let's say, opinions or agreements all the time.
At Temple, we often disagree. You know, I say, Kook, I'm here today to help do this and dig this and fix this and correct that. I'm not here to put money in the collection box, and I'm not here to put food in front of the monks, and I'm not here to, what you see and what you hear, I'm going to tell you, that's the way I am. Huh? And I don't make excuse.
I can give an example. Many years ago in the temple that we are helping now, there was a Finnish man. He came up with the idea that, what about temple buy this piece of land? It's about 10, I think it's like 10 rai, which is something like close to about 10,000 square meter. Is it actually 10 rai? Okay, doesn't matter. It's a big piece of land anyway. I'm just thinking in terms of square meters. I would think it's closer to maybe 20,000 square meters. It's a big piece of land. He said, how about temple spend about 80,000 euro to pay for this piece of land? And then he came up with the idea that we could build a future Buddhist crematorium, the place that you can cremate the body or burn the body after death. He said that the temple could make a lot of money from crematorium and this piece of land. And it was a big amount of money because I think back then Thai temple didn't have so much saving. So 80,000 euro was a lot of money. So it was a big talk of among the working group for quite a while. Eventually, the temple did not buy that piece of land for a few reasons. And for one of the reasons was we realized that that man who came up with this idea, he would get commission if he would sell the temple that piece of land. So, of course, like the temple didn't have enough money to buy that piece of land, and it's like, okay, he has interest to get commission, but of course we didn't. The temple did not do what he wanted, so he actually now is no longer a friend of the temple. So this is like interest, sometimes profit. You have to think temple is and lay people are not always people who are like the place you think to be. Sometimes the place of benefits and hidden agendas too. You have to think. You will come across them in your lifetime.
And we have, as you may experience in your own temples and in your own upbringing in the Buddhist teachings, we have individuals who take the temple as their own personal place, and it's under their control, and it's under their decisions that things are made, regardless of what the working group says, regardless of what the abbot says or whatever. They have, this is their place, and we learn to work around that. So the West is no different. We have the same attitudes. If you've experienced them wherever you come from, we have the same type of attitudes in the West. And I don't know that we have them more or less, but they are there. So, just be aware that all those things do exist. The other expectations that the lay people have, of course, and as they relate back to the clergy and the temple, is they expect that their children will be blessed as they're born, that their aging will be recognized and taken care of, that the merit that they make when they come to the temple will be acknowledged, that when someone dies in their family, that the monks and the Meshi and others will know what to do and what to say and what to chant, so that they have a better chance in the next life. Those are just part of the normal things. I don't know that there's so much abnormal from the West. I think it's about the same, which brings us to our last topic under the expectations and perspectives, because we've got about a half hour. We have just a half hour left to come to some conclusions and take some questions from you, and hopefully give a few more answers. But activities and merit making.
Actually, I just have one thing that popped up in my mind. Actually, I just want to tell you that we haven't actually prepared much of our content before. So
don't need to. We live it every day.
So at times, like some examples, like did not pop up until just now. For clergy and fellow lay people, these two groups of people will relate. We will create different kinds of relationships at times. If something goes wrong, lay people, some lay people or lay person may blame the clergy for whatever is wrong. For example, there's a case I remember. One woman, she said to us that okay, she can leave her young son, 15 years old last year, with us at the temple for 1 week, so that we could teach the boy how to help around in the temple. We were not aware at all that the boy took one particular medicines for his mental issue every day. We were not aware of that. And after, of course, a few days, we noticed that he behaved slightly differently. When someone behaves in a certain way and suddenly differently, you know that something is not right. Something is abnormal. So the mother came to the temple within a few days and say to me and say to one particular monk who was at the temple at the time that because of you, my son did not take the medicine. Why did not you remind my son to take medicine? And I was like, I had no idea. And that monk didn't know either. So we had to take the blame, at least. And of course, we talked later that like, how could she blame us when we did not even know that the boy had to take the medicine. So at times you will come across this kind of situation that even though everything seems all right in your mind, you could be blamed for something that is not right in someone's mind.
So very, very quickly with activities and merit making, which is our last point that we want to share with you regarding what we expect and what our perspectives are. Activities, I expect they will be what they're supposed to be, whether it's Vesak Day or whether it's Katin ceremony, or in the case of a Thai temple that we go to, Songkran, the Thai New Year, is a very big event for us as well too. And of course, the people who attend, being mostly Thai, they expect all of the ceremony and symbolism that they would see at home, including throwing water at each other and all the other things that we're supposed to do during these events. In fact, Tita and I will be back in Finland about a week from today. Actually, we'll be back
week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, and the weekend after that is Ancestor Day. So we'll be at temple for that. That will be a very big event at the temple, and there'll be 300 to 400 people there. The event we had earlier this summer, there were over 1,000 people at the temple that day. So we expect, in English, we say we expect all the pomp and pageantry. Meaning, all that grand stuff like a royal wedding or, you know what I mean? And also the Thai people in Thailand, they expect that when there is a Thai national holiday, whether it's the king's birthday or the queen's birthday or whatever, they expect that the temple will host those activities. And in fact, we often host the ambassador at our temple, who has become a good friend to Tita and I through our connection through the temple. She's a lovely person who comes and represents the interests of the Thai government at the temple as well too. So you often have to, as clergy, play host to that and represent that. So merit making at the temple, from my perspective, and she can speak a bit on hers. I don't know, this term merit making, we don't have it in Christianity. We just do good things because it's the Christian thing to do, whether it is bringing our old clothes to the church to provide for the poor, or bringing food donations, not for the priests, but for the poor, or whether it is putting money in the donation box to feed and clothe the poor and those who are of less capability than us. But in Buddhism, we have this thing that I've learned to be called merit making, and and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's this idea that you come there and do something good, and because you've done it good, you're going to have, better karma in the next life, or you're going to make up for the bad karma you had before. I don't know. That's my feeling, and I don't get into any of that. I don't go to the temple to make merit. I go to the temple, as I said, because I really like the peace and the quiet and the meditation that I get. And to be honest, I like the food, because there's a lot of food after the monks have eaten that's shared, because always the lay people make way too much food, I don't like the ceremonies so much. I don't know. I never liked them in the Catholic Church either. It wasn't my thing. And again, going back to my belief in the teachings and the following of the teachings of Ajahn Chah, he said the same thing. He always said that, and this is going back to the 1980s. Ajahn Chah said, Buddhism in Thailand's in big trouble because we've become nothing but a bunch of people who come to the temple just to chant and do symbolism and some magic. And he says, that's not what we're here for. He was not happy with any of that. But so for merit making for me is not something I get at the temple. And the activities, where am I during the activities? Out in the parking lot, telling people how to park their cars, having these very mindful, kind Buddhists tell me, don't tell me where to park my car. I park where I want to park. You're not Thai anyway. Well, and I get it all. Believe me, it's not always pleasant.
Well, I think let's talk about this point. Of course, there are different activities at the temple wherever you are, and at times you have to deal with like parking. It's funny, but many people who come to the temple may come with a car, and if there are lots of cars, like for example 500 cars, it's a lot. You have to learn to manage it, but it's hard to tell someone, please park here, because it's more organized, and then other drivers can park
the
their
monks
cars.
in Mashi, you don't have to do it. Don't worry.
No,
you don't have to do it.
Of course, in the
They'll
West,
complain to you later that they didn't get to drive their car to the front door and make an offering to you. They'll complain to you later that Brian didn't let you drive your car to the front door, but you won't hear about it until after. So don't worry.
But actually, with the parking, this interesting thing. Often we do the work of the parking during the events, and we park between 200 to 500 cars. So it's a lot. We work as a team. And Brian sometimes still had difficulty to tell people, could you please park here? And that person said, no, don't tell me where to park. No. And of course, it's a conflict between him and that driver. But of course, we talked about, what if we ask monks to come to do the work, tell people where to park? We believe that the monks are better at this work. And actually, a few days ago, we were in Kanchanaburi province. That temple is special. There was a monk. He works as a parking assistant. He told every one of us, including our car, then you park here, you park there, and it worked. It really did. So it's like, maybe we should suggest to our monks in Finland, maybe we could, swap our road a little bit. Because anyway, parking is always before the ceremony, right? So, okay. Then, and Brian already said that merit making at the temple is often on the very, let's say, surface level. It's mostly, at least in the temple we spend time, is on the donation level, not on taking precept or mindfulness training. So then when the merit making is focused only on donation level, donation becomes showing off between the lay people, and that also forced the clergy to put. You have to learn to put on the show. It's like a little bit silly to think about this, but when someone, for example, bring a lump sum amount of money to donate to the temple, usually it depends on how you receive the donation. You may just receive it simply, but if someone expect that I bring a big lump sum of money, you should put on the show. Put on, like, you have to dress well. You have to put some flowers. You have to organize the place that you will receive the donation, almost like a stage, like a ceremonial ground. So you have to learn to put on the show too. And at times it's a little bit difficult for the clergy because
And
it takes a lot of
uncomfortable.
time and energy to put on a show for someone else.
And uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. But I can, we're not here to speak for the clergy. We can only tell you that we perceive that there's some discomfort that they experience because they really don't see themselves as being in that position or that role, but then they find themselves in it and they have to do something with it. We're going to move on to the last, actually, I missed the last point here. And it's very important, of course, the teaching and the Dhamma. Our expectations we've shared with you this morning about what I expect, for instance, from the teachings of Ajahn Chah, Ajahn Sumedho, the Lord Buddha. I expected those at the temple. I don't get them necessarily there. I've shared that with you. And the same goes with just, if we take the topic of Dhamma, the Dhamma talks that have been given, that are given, I can't share in them because they're not in my language. So I don't know. So I sit quietly through them, usually meditating. And that's about all I can say about that.
So Dhamma, we already actually mentioned that the current temple that we assist a lot doesn't offer much of the teaching or Dhamma talks or Dhamma sessions. And anyway, nowadays there's YouTube Dhamma clips that I also use a lot. So I learned from different teachers from YouTube clips. So in that sense, nowadays I don't expect anymore that when I go to any temples, I would talk Dhammas with some monks. But I still have some expectation that if I need some guidance, like for example, I've been thinking about or studying this topic, and I need some further explanation because certain topics can be quite difficult to understand by myself. I still expect that the monks or nuns are like coach. You still can give us some guidance when we need some guidance. Like we don't expect it from you all the time, but when we expect that you are competent to deliver the teaching in a way that we could understand.
So that brings us to nearly our close, and what we've titled here as conclusions. So our conclusions, as they relate to Buddhism in the West, in Finland, I can say without hesitation to you that it is growing. It is growing for a number of reasons. One, there are more Thais and other nationalities who come from Buddhist beliefs to that part of the world. Whatever brings them there, their studies, their work, their families, whatever, there are more and more people coming. Aside from that, in the Western world, as you are probably well aware, there is, because of the times we live in now, there's a great amount of attention to the teachings of the Lord Buddha. And there are more, again, from my perspective only, there is more seriousness about it than just symbolism, than just ceremony, than just the robe you may wear. It really is the attempt by them, such as me, to find inner peace, to find the middle path. We're really trying hard to find that because honestly, I will say, and again, I'm nearly 70 years of age, everything else has failed in my life in terms of spirituality. The only thing that has succeeded for me are the teachings of the Lord Buddha. And that's why I am a practicing Buddhist. So I see it as growing and maintaining interests, the interests of so many, for whatever their reasons may be. And maybe Tita can say a little bit from her perspective.
I think, of course, there are growing interest from Thai Thai, and I would say, let's not use the word Thai. People nowadays seek wisdom, regardless of nationality. So when they come to a place like temples or churches, they hope to learn something that they haven't already figured out themselves. But it's difficult to when clergy cannot explain things in simple terms or do not, let's say, organize certain regular Dhamma talks that we know, okay, at this time of the week, for example, every Saturday morning, you can always come to this Dhamma talk. When there are no regular sessions for such talks or Dhamma talks, people do not know where to go. So when they know, okay, this temple doesn't offer such thing, they don't come to your temple, even though people seek wisdom, but they don't go to temples anymore to seek wisdoms. So we also see that that some temples have difficulty to maintain interest of people who want to come to the temple. And when I say that have difficulty, what it means in practice, when people are not interested in going somewhere, they don't bring money, they don't donate money, that temple will not do well in terms of financial. The monks cannot sustain themselves in terms of basic needs.
Which brings us to the challenges. So there are these challenges that the temples in Finland, as we believe in other parts of the world, share these same challenges. I think you have some of the same challenges here in Thailand in today's modern world, or wherever you come from. I think the challenges are not so different. But I believe the answer, and again, just Brian's perspective, and then I will be quiet and let her say more. It is the teachings of the Lord Buddha. That's what you have to overlook the material things that are offered to you, that are demanded of you to provide for these people who come in and want to use the temple as their cultural touchstone, their social gathering place, their way of staying closer to where they came from. And you would do well in meeting your challenges as clergy to stay focused on the teachings of the Lord Buddha, because I believe they'll take all of us farther.
Actually, I have to say that what we said about some challenges, some expectations and perspective cannot be applied to other, countries. So of course, we would like to learn more about your expectation and perspectives from your countries, because you come from different countries. Some monks told me already they're from Burma. So of course, I'm quite sure that you may come across different expectations and perspectives too, actually. No.
Okay, I get to push. This is my favorite button to push, this one, because it has animation. I like that.
Yes, we will welcome any questions. We will answer as best as we could.
Yeah, some of you maybe had the question during our presentation that what is our future for as Buddhists in Finland? And both Tita and I, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, will return to Finland later this month or the beginning of next month, which is in about a week. And I can tell you, we arrive on Sunday morning at 6 a.m. at the airport. Someone from the temple will pick us up. We'll go home. We'll go do some grocery shopping, so there's some food in the refrigerator, and we'll probably go to temple. I certainly will the next day, if not that day, but I'll go to temple because I miss it. I miss all that I've talked about and shared with you today. I miss it all, and the people there as well too. And I'll do as I do every day, every evening, and I will open my Kindle book. Those of you who use a Kindle or no e-readers, I'll open my Kindle book and read the teachings of Ajahn Chah, and that will get me through to the next day.
In addition to questions, we also welcome any comments or any thoughts. Please share with us. or with your audience. Yes.
All right. Before the question, first of all, I would like to thank you so much for your sharing, and I have learned a lot from you. So thank you so much again. So my question is that in the Western, right, and most of the temple, it's just only like maybe we can call the pariya only the practice, right? But in Southeast Asia, like Myanmar or Thai, before the practice, they have the pariyati, that means the learning. So for us, before teaching to other people, first we have to learn. So in the Western, I don't see any like learning more temple or the university. I heard only once in Hungary there is a university according to the Buddhism. So what my question is that do you believe that maybe in 5 or 10 years later, do you believe that we will have some temple that's learning the young generation or some university learn generation to promote the Buddha's teaching?
Well,
Thank you so much.
as it relates to Finland and only Finland, I can tell you that we do have, and again, she may be in our audience, a doctorate of Buddhist studies. And she has been working along with Ajanta here at the International Buddhist Studies Center. As recently as this summer, they're in discussions along with the Finnish Buddhist Union on bringing more of the teachings of the Lord Buddha to the academic world in Finland. So there will be, as there may be already, again, I'm not so certain, there may be already, but they are working hard to find the cooperation between the IBSC and the University of Helsinki in bringing more of the studies, the teachings of the Lord Buddha to the academic world. Is that kind of what you're looking for? Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of this. Thank you so much.
Yes. Anyone else?
First of all, thanks for your sharing this morning. So I would like to ask about some challenges of the like Orient, how to say about it in the Western culture in the especially for the Buddhisms. So the Buddha who loves a peaceful and secluded environment. So many activities in Eastern Buddhisms. So most of the Westerners they don't like actually to participate at least in whatever their religion is. So in the Western countries are now gradually developed and some practicing as such as a mindfulness meditations. So it is called like a pati meditation. So and also the others in the Western countries, they have in universities or enter the universities like kind of a academy or an institute of college of religions, such as like a Christianity or Islamic and other Buddhisms. So the teachings of the respective religions. So this is called like in, especially for the Buddhisms, we call that is the pariyati. So I don't mind about the pariyati. So some of the universities can teach or who are interested in the Buddhisms. So especially for the pati. So how about the challenges? Some are like free thinkers. So how can we attractive to the, especially for the practicing meditation to be peaceful and like inner peace. So my question is like about the what is the challenges of for the Westerners to be like the peaceful meditation practice?
Quite interesting question. If I understand your question correctly, I think based on what I have some little experience with Finnish people wanting to learn Buddhism, Brian has mentioned earlier that Finland is a calm country, but culturally Finnish people are quite, not all of them, but many of them are passive aggressive. So they have some aggression in their mind, but they don't know how to express themselves healthily. So these people are actually they are seeking some way to calm themselves down, and there are different groups of Buddhist teaching that in Finland, run by Finnish like scholars. They focus on meditation. The first thing is always meditation to calm these people's minds down. And of course, like the organization that we have some little cooperation with, Finnish Buddhist Union, they try to translate different teaching into Finnish language, because to understand the direct words of Lord Buddha, you have to understand in your own mother tongue, which sometimes when even I try to explain into English, it doesn't work exactly like in the mother tongue. So Brian mentioned to you that, like, yes, there has been some cooperation now just started between University of Helsinki and this university in terms of bringing curriculum and some syllabus from this university to University of Helsinki. But that is like a high level. University is always a high level of education. But to start with, I see that why some of the Finnish Buddhist organizations started meditation, because it's simple, it's easy to relate to, and it works right away within the first 5 minutes. It doesn't cost anything either, except some extra time. So you have to think, because like education it requires some funding, right? If you don't have money, how would you like to pay for something to make you calm? No, but if you can just like spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes, just learn to meditate. It doesn't cost you anything, and it works right away. So that's why I noticed that in Finland, many organizations focus and start with meditation. And when you have some good experience and you feel good about meditation, maybe within first few months, this person or these people may continue to the next step, like to learn more about the teaching. So it's like everything is like you have to do like a baby step always, and do it from the very simplest, and work your way up. Did I answer your question?
Well, Tita and I would like to thank you for the time you've taken out of your lives. I always say to any audience who takes the time to listen to me that the most valuable thing that we have in this life is time, because we don't know how much we have of it. We can't buy it. We can't borrow it. We can't steal it from others. We only have what we have, and we only have now. And you've taken the time that you had now and spent it with us, and we do appreciate that. We want to thank Ajahn Ta in the International Buddhist Studies Program or Center for finding that what we had to share with you was of interest to them as well as to you. So thank you very much, and we wish you all
of course,
a
you
good
have
day,
our.
because they have to
yes.
eat. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Was there one more question? Because I know you have to get to your meal. I promised the Janta they
Yes,
will go at
we
11.
promised Ajahn Ta that we will stop by 11.
Yeah.
Because that's your meal time. So,
Maybe we answered already.
Yeah, first of all, I would
Yeah.
like to thank you both, Mr. Brian, and may I call you Cook, because other name I difficult to pronounce. Then when I call you Cook, maybe at least I remember my lunch. Then actually my question is very simple. When you talk about the temple in Western countries, then Mr. Brian mentioned it looks like a Thai club or Vietnamese club or Indian club or something like that, right? Then yeah, I agree with you. Most of the temple looks like that. Then my question is, I think those who are stay in Western country from Asian traditional country like Thailand, Myanmar, or Sri Lankan, they have a lot of chances to learn Buddhism from their own languages, right? Then Thai people can learn from Thai monks their local language. Then there are many chances for them. But actually, according to me, I have to address to the Western people. Then in English. Then do you have any your own ideas how we can create the environment, fair environment for the Western people in the if we are build the temple in Western country?
Well, it has to start with the language first,
Yeah.
the language that people understand and can communicate fluently in, so that they can appreciate what you have to offer. And then it needs to stay focused upon the teachings, not upon the surroundings. You know, many of the Western temples that we see now being developed are very simple in their appearance. They're very simple in the image of the Lord Buddha that's presented to them, not with a lot of flowery, flashing lights and all the other gilded, that is gold, and all the other things that are presented in many of the temples around the world today, because they want to focus and they need to focus only on those teachings. So that's the best way. And as Tita alluded to before, it is consistency. Consistency in the teachings that you offer, not only the topic, but the time in which you offer it. People respond to routine best of all. You are all on routine here at school. You have classes that start and end at a particular time. So this one's over for today. Thank you so much for
Brian, I have actually just a
they
short
have to
answer.
go. They have to go.
Yes, I just have short answers. You have to create environment that attract people, first of all. The second one could be you have to use the spouse to deliver your message. For example, when I first brought Brian to of course, Thai temple, he had so many questions. So of course, I back then already had basic knowledge of Buddhism, so I could explain many things to Brian. So if someone you see that, okay, spouse, usually in the West, a lot of Thai people are there. So and they have Western husbands. So you have to talk to the ladies of the lay people. You say to
Include
them
both.
that when you go back to your home, you talk to your spouse, your husband or wife. You explain things about Buddhism. So you have to use another person to explain or deliver your message.
Yeah.
That's one way. And another way, when I say you have to create an environment that attracts that person. There's a good example from Russia. Actually, Ajahn Chatri, whom we mentioned earlier, he said to us that in the beginning, there were no Russian in his temple. So he thought about how to do it. And he said he knew of one technique. Christian charity, usually they say, we'll give you free food. Come and let's talk. 2 hours, you get to eat free food, good drinks, and let's talk about your life in general for about a few hours. So that was a starting point. He said he attracted more people through free food, and like that turned to be meditation sessions, and then mindfulness training sessions. So you have to at least attract them with whatever simple means that works for those people.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Brian and Ms. Cook. Actually, if we can address to the Western people in the future, they will not work in the parking, right, Brian?
I hope.
Okay, thank you.
I need all the help I can get. Thank you all again so much.
Yes,
It's
thank
been
you all.
really a
Thank
pleasure.
you all. Thank you.
Namaste.